Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the March 5th, 2018 edition of The Breast There Is, The Breast There Was, and The Breast There Ever Will Be Wrestling Podcast. As always, I am your host, Mikey B, WWE, and I'm here to bring you all the latest news and developments in the past week in the WWE. Starting with the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, which was 8 days ago, just not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And this was a Raw exclusive pay-per-view. And this is noteworthy because this is the first time since I've been conducting my podcast here that I scored a perfect scoring on all my predictions for the night. There were 5 matches, including 2 Elimination Chamber matches, which featured the first time ever a women's Elimination Chamber match. And I'm proud to say that I nailed all my predictions and got every single one right. I will say that there weren't any crazy surprises out of left field on this particular pay-per-view. Oftentimes when I make the incorrect pick, it's when Vince McMahon decides to do something completely unexpected, bring a return performer in, things like this, or even have a surprise result, which is difficult to predict, like a disqualification or count out or something like this. But anyways, I was able to safely pick all of the 5 correct victors in of the matches that evening, and just for keeping the percentage on top of everyone's mind here, my overall prediction percentage now for the year since last year's WrestleMania is now 54 out of 93, which gives me a prediction rate of 58%. So I am climbing that percentage slowly but surely. So had to mention that before I delved into all the important news from the WWE this past week. So starting with Monday Night Raw a week ago, which was the 26th of February, the show opened up with a 6-women tag with Alexa Bliss, Mickie James, and Nia Jax competing on one side against Asuka, Bayley, and Sasha Banks. Ordinarily, this is not a match I would generally discuss because there's no real repercussions or significant outcomes to come out of a match like this. But one storyline development worth noting that did occur during this matchup was that at one point Sasha Banks reached out to tag her tag team partner Bayley, and Bayley stepped off the apron and backed away and wouldn't even help out Sasha Banks. So there's clearly a feud building up between these two here. I could easily see this culminating in a match at WrestleMania. It would also be interesting to see if these two get mixed into the Raw Women's Championship match come WrestleMania time. So I think it'll be one of those two outcomes. It's going to be difficult for the WWE considering they have so many superstars to try and include them on the WrestleMania card. Just as was the case in years past, WrestleMania is likely going to be a 5-hour show, which is so incredibly overly long, but this is the only way they can really try and get everybody that they want to have a featured role on the card. And we're also going to see, in addition to this, a number of triple threat, fatal 4-way, fatal 5-way types of matches where it's not just one person against another or one team against another team. So this is why I could see that also happening where it becomes a fatal 4-way, for example. But they might also just do a Bayley versus Sasha Banks match, because I would be very surprised if the two of them are not featured on the WrestleMania card. So anyways, moving past that initial match comes the big potential announcement of the week. John Cena comes out to the ring to address the WWE Universe. And John, the night before, was unsuccessful in his bid to win the Elimination Chamber to go on to WrestleMania to face Brock Lesnar. I had a feeling this was going to happen and that the company would opt to go with Roman Reigns, their golden boy, who they've been, again, very quietly under the radar trying to build back up again and to garner new fans for Roman Reigns, just to avoid the sort of catastrophe that was the last time a WrestleMania main event rolled around, which had Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. The crowd was certainly not ready to embrace Roman Reigns at that point, and I'm sure that's why they made an audible and had Seth Rollins cash in his Money in the Bank at that particular WrestleMania, because they probably realized what a mistake that was to try and push Roman Reigns too fast before the WWE Universe was ready to accept him. And I must say they've done a good job in attempting to build up Roman Reigns over this past year especially. They had him reunite with fan favorites, The Shield, his old faction with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, which the crowd certainly seemed to love at every appearance they made together. And it definitely boosted Roman Reigns' stock as far as how he was perceived by the WWE Universe. So, and since then, he's had certainly some notable victories, one over John Cena at a pay-per-view some months ago, to name one. So, this time around, I think they're just going to say, okay, well, Roman Reigns is our guy, and Brock Lesnar is not. So I think that one's going to be one of the most obvious WrestleMania matches when the card's all finally laid out for us. So anyways, back to John Cena, though. Because he was not able to secure a spot in that particular main event, John Cena comes out and starts discussing his plans once again for WrestleMania and how he has no clear road to WrestleMania. And then he paused and gave a smirk out to the crowd, probably because he knew what sort of a reaction he was going to get with his subsequent announcement, which was that he wanted to extend a challenge to the one and only Undertaker at WrestleMania. And the place, surely enough, did erupt. I was going crazy at home on my couch cheering for this, because it feels like it's been certainly teased long enough that Undertaker may return for another match. After it was widely speculated that he was done last year after WrestleMania after losing to Roman Reigns. So the fact that Undertaker appeared at the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw in January, and the fact that John Cena has never competed against The Undertaker, in all the years they were with the company together, they never competed against one another at WrestleMania. So this is something that lots of people want to see happen, including myself. Frankly, I just want to see Undertaker back in the ring anyways, at least one more time. And certainly in doing so, it would be great if it was at WrestleMania. The event he really, secured his legacy with having such an incredible undefeated streak for such a long time until the company decided to give Lesnar the victory over him, which was a mistake, in my opinion. But anyway, so now with having said all that, Cena announces this challenge. The crowd goes crazy, and then he followed it up shortly after by saying that he inquired about this match and was told that it was not possible. And as a result, he is now exercising his free agent status and going to move over to SmackDown Live to try and find his road to WrestleMania on SmackDown Live. So it really took the wind out of everyone's sails after a moment of pure elation, pure joy that we thought we were going to see a John Cena Undertaker match. And I'm, for one, am holding out hope that this is still going to happen, going to transpire at WrestleMania. Because again, if they don't do this, this was a humongous tease from the company and a huge disappointment if you're going to bring The Undertaker back after nearly a year during the road to WrestleMania in January. So I'm still holding out hope that this guy is going to have a match at WrestleMania, and who better than to face against John Cena. Again, that's a match right there you can build your entire pay-per-view around. And since it's WrestleMania, the biggest pay-per-view of the year, you want to take a chance if you can have a match of that caliber, which has never happened at WrestleMania. So I'm still holding out hope that this is how it's going to be. So I will talk a little bit more about John Cena a little later on with his appearance on SmackDown the following night. So that's where he left off on Monday Night Raw. In addition to these developments, it's also becoming a bit more clear now what direction the Intercontinental Championship, or what sort of program will be introduced for the Intercontinental Championship, I think on the road to WrestleMania now. The Miz came out and cut a promo and was discussing his complete dominance with that title and proclaiming that he's the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. And to his credit, he's certainly done a great job. Miz is, you can always depend on Miz to be a great heel performer. And he puts on good matches with wrestlers. He's not, I wouldn't rank him among the absolute elite wrestlers, in-ring performers, but he's very good on the microphone and, like I said, is a very convincing heel character. So this is surely why the company has kept the title on him for so long, because he's just such a solid rock kind of performer that you can depend on him. So anyways, Miz was slated to face off against Seth Rollins. And this is and Seth Rollins was victorious, but as he was victorious, Finn Balor came out. And it was then determined that Finn Balor would have a chance to face Miz right after Seth Rollins in consecutive matches, which seems a bit unfair to the Miz, but that's what happens when I guess you boast too much. After an initial disqualification in the second match, eventually the match was restarted and Finn Balor was victorious over the Miz. And right after that match, backstage, Seth Rollins was interviewed and said that he wanted to face Miz at WrestleMania. So what I believe happens is going to happen is, as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, that this will be one of those matches which will be probably a triple threat come WrestleMania. We'll probably see The Miz defend his Intercontinental Championship against Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. And if that is how it's going to shape up, I'm going to give my early, at least my preferred outcome for that match right now, even though this is not officially on my prediction show, so it doesn't quite count. I'm just speculating here. It would be great to see Finn Balor get a championship again. Seth Rollins, I've discussed this on previous podcasts. He has a tendency to not always be the safest worker in the ring. He hurts his opponents, certainly not on purpose. It's just sometimes he can do some careless or reckless moves or maneuvers, and he actually legitimately winds up hurting his opponents and putting them out on getting injured for significant periods of time. One of the men in this potential feud, Finn Balor, this is exactly what happened to him. And it happened right during what should have been probably the career-defining, one of the greatest things in Finn Balor's career, which was dating back now to SummerSlam 2016. Finn Balor had just been brought up onto the main program, and he faced off against Seth Rollins for the inaugural Universal Championship match. Finn Balor was victorious, even though he got hurt during the course of the match. Required some sort of shoulder surgery and had to relinquish his belt the next day on Monday Night Raw. So since he returned healthy last year, he has not claimed any WWE championship of any sort, let alone the top one, the Universal Championship. So he's more than due for a belt. And in the meantime, Seth Rollins has won the tag team championships on a number of occasions. And a side note, these wrestlers actually do earn more money if they are a champion of any sort in the company. So it'd be nice for Finn Balor to get his due since he was off for all those months being injured from Seth Rollins. If he could claim a belt and have a bit of a run himself, earning a bit more money for himself and reestablishing him as a top player in the company, which he fully deserves. So that's what's shaping up in the Intercontinental division right now. Following this matchup, or these matchups, I should say, these back-to-back matchups, Roman Reigns came out, and what was originally listed as a face-to-face confrontation with Brock Lesnar turned into a bit of a hate fest from Roman Reigns, because he was the one who mentioned to the audience that Brock Lesnar was not in fact there that evening, and started cutting him down, saying how he's sick and tired that Brock Lesnar appears whenever he wants. He's not one of the guys there year round. And my response to all this is, well, duh. Yeah, we know this. Brock Lesnar, this is how the company, it's Vince McMahon and the WWE management's fault for doing this, for letting Brock Lesnar appear, less than a dozen times per year, while you have all your other regular roster guys and gals fighting year round, traveling all around the world, being away from their families and friends. it is really unfair, and I would say that Brock Lesnar, he was fulfilling his duties a bit more this past year, appearing at more pay-per-views than he was in the years before, recently. But he's also held the top championship since last year's WrestleMania, meaning it's almost been a full year of him holding the belt. So he definitely should have appeared more than he was doing in years past anyway. So that shouldn't be much of a boast to him. So they're really, again, now trying to work the creative machines, trying to get everybody behind Roman Reigns, believe him as a baby face, and everyone wants him to be the good guy. The company's been wanting this for years and years, and I have noticed over this past year, especially since the Shield reunion, Roman Reigns has not had such a volatile reaction from the audience every time he's appeared. It's been a bit more lukewarm, a bit more mixed. So the company is definitely, I'm sure, very delighted about that the scorn is not as thick as it once was for Roman Reigns. So anyways, they're now trying to certainly work that angle of Lesnar doesn't care. And furthermore, Brock Lesnar has also been rumored now to be possibly returning to the UFC. And this is, of course, just speculation. I suspect, and some articles I've read about this are inferring that Brock Lesnar is just appearing with Dana White from UFC just to try and give himself some leverage in contract negotiations, because I believe his contract is up soon with the WWE. So I'm not sure if he will ever return to UFC, since he's failed the drug policy there with taking steroids and whatnot. So we'll see what happens with that. But at any rate, Roman Reigns is definitely the guy who's probably going to take the belt from Brock Lesnar after a year-long build-up to this match. So Roman Reigns, they're working away at him, trying to get over well with the crowd. So that was what Roman did in his interview. Following this, we had a Raw Tag Team title match, best 2 out of 3 falls, which was between the champions Sheamus and Cesaro, and Titus Worldwide, which is the team of Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews. Sheamus and Cesaro were able to win in the first 2 falls, so it didn't even have to go to a third fall. And following the match, Cesaro and Sheamus discussed their dominance and how they've beaten pretty much everybody, and there's no one left to defend these titles against. So, and I think they really have a point there. I've been saying for a while that the tag team division, it's split between Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live, is awfully thin when you spread it out in this way, in this fashion. So I'm trying to think. There's not really many other viable tag teams on the Monday Night Raw roster right now for these guys. So it's going to be interesting to see what the road to WrestleMania will look like for Cesaro and Sheamus. Hopefully for them, they don't get relegated to a pre-show match, which is longer than the 5-hour main card that WrestleMania will be. So we'll see what they're going to do with that tag team. And finally, on Monday Night Raw, in the final minutes before the broadcast went off the air, we had Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Ronda Rousey, and Kurt Angle all come down to the ring just to sort of make amends for their little spat the week before the day before at the Elimination Chamber event. And everybody seemed to be on good terms. However, before he left the ring, Triple H decked Kurt Angle, gave him a stiff punch and knocked him down. Just kind of a blindsided punch. So this is now, I'm having a feeling, I've been saying for a while that I think Kurt Angle and Triple H, I could see them involved in some sort of a match together, the two of them. Now, with Ronda Rousey being in the picture and now being on Monday Night Raw's roster, I could easily see them turning this into some sort of a mixed tag match. Even though Stephanie McMahon is certainly not a wrestler, they might have her compete or have someone else represent for her, but I could certainly see this shaping up as a WrestleMania match, just because Triple H always loves to finagle his way onto the WrestleMania card, which is really unfair because he takes a great paying job over one of the other more deserving superstars. But, he's the COO of the company. He gets to kind of do what he likes, and he's married to the chairman's daughter, so that's how it's going to be. I mean, it's great for everyone to see Kurt Angle, but I don't know. I'm surprised that people are still interested to see Triple H compete anymore. He's, I think, overstayed his welcome by many years, and it's obvious whenever he does have these matches, he loses just to put over an up-and-coming star or just to do the crowd-pleasing thing, since he's been a heel character for such a long time. So I have a feeling this is where they're heading with this, but it's still too early to confirm. So that was all the big events on Monday Night Raw. Moving over to SmackDown Live the following evening on the 27th of February. The only major notable storyline going on with on SmackDown Live, because they're right now on their way to build up to their final pay-per-view before WrestleMania, which is the Fastlane pay-per-view on SmackDown. So a lot of their programs are already and feuds are already set for that pay-per-view. So they're in most cases they're not already looking towards WrestleMania beyond the Fastlane pay-per-view. They're all sort of working towards that first pay-per-view before they start solidifying all the matchups heading into WrestleMania. But the big news, of course, to follow up what happened on Monday Night Raw, was John Cena making his appearance and saying that he wants to get to his road to WrestleMania through SmackDown Live now. So he basically requested a match, and if he wins this match, he would get a chance to compete in the WWE Championship match at Fastlane, which initially started out as a triple threat but has now become a fatal five-way, which involves champion AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Baron Corbin, and Dolph Ziggler. So General Manager Daniel Bryan and Commissioner Shane McMahon, they complied, and they said that you can qualify for this match if you defeat AJ Styles tonight. So John Cena and AJ Styles had a match, which John Cena was victorious in. Non-title match, of course, but this granted John Cena now into that WWE Championship match at Fastlane, making it a six-person, six-way elimination match, or six-way fatal. What the heck do they even call six-way matches? It doesn't matter because there's too many competitors in this match now, but it's a six-person matchup. I don't think it's elimination style, so it's probably only going to be one pinfall or submission, or one decision will mark the victor for that match, but it's a six-person match now. And so with this, John Cena's route now has changed a bit. I've been saying that I could see him possibly getting into the WWE Championship match, or rather the Universal Championship match with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. But since he has now sort of determined that he's going to find his way through SmackDown, I think we can safely close the door on that one. And it's just going to be a singles match, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns come WrestleMania for Monday Night Raw. But this now leaves the SmackDown WWE Championship match at WrestleMania up in the air. At Royal Rumble, we got sort of the first impression that it's going to be champion AJ Styles against Shinsuke Nakamura, who won the Royal Rumble match. However, this is now certainly not definitely the case anymore. Shinsuke Nakamura will be in that match, but we don't know if AJ Styles will be. I personally am hoping, as I sort of alluded to earlier in this podcast, that they'll stick with that match, keep it AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, and this will now leave John Cena without an option if he does lose this match at the Fastlane pay-per-view, and it would be perfect to get Undertaker to come in at that point in time and to say, yes, I accept your challenge, let's have a match. So I'm still holding out hope, as I'm sure many fans around the world are, that John Cena and The Undertaker will still actually happen come WrestleMania. And, AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura will be great on its own. John Cena wouldn't necessarily negatively affect the match, but you don't need to add him to a match of that caliber. Those guys are going to put on a showcase, a wrestling clinic in that match. So you don't really need John Cena in there. But one thing I did notice certainly was at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, after I commented this on my last podcast, The company WWE seemed to not mention much John Cena's status of having the most world championship title reigns, tied with Ric Flair, and now is trying to go for the all-time most championship wins, which would be 17. So he's sitting on 16, and they did mention this at the Elimination Chamber matchup. So, they could still be going with this angle that John Cena might win at this WrestleMania, the 17th all-time winningest champion in the history of certainly this company and the major companies in North America for wrestling. So his road is now, I think, down to those two options. He's either going to get into that matchup at WrestleMania, which won't be just John Cena and Shinsuke Nakamura, in my opinion. AJ Styles will be a part of it as well if they go with that route. So it would be a triple threat match, or holding out hope that John Cena and The Undertaker will have their matchup still. So, folks, that pretty much covers everything. We are getting our information about WrestleMania slowly and surely, and hopefully we'll get more answers tonight and tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown's broadcasts. So thanks very much for listening. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel also if you liked what you heard today. So thanks very much for listening, and see you next time.